I've been waiting to really be able to do something like this because I know that we have, Matt did a really awesome presentation that's in the lesson. And a lot of you, if you've been here for a minute, you've seen that lesson. But, back when he did that, when we were doing MyFitnessPal, and now we're using Macros First. So this one's kind of just an updated version of weighing, measuring, why it's important, all of the things. From day one, everyone learns that part of this program is weighing, measuring, logging, tracking your food, right? And it's not easy. We know that it's not easy. It's definitely a skill that has to be honed in, right? Something that, if you haven't done it, it's going to take you a minute to figure it out. So we understand that there's, a learning curve, and so part of this is just kind of talking about why is it important? Why do we need to do it? And then how do we do it? How do we make it more accurate? And why does that even matter? So weighing and measuring your food basically is just like you're either weighing and measuring it with the food scale so that you're doing this in grams or ounces. You're measuring it with measuring cups or tables or, spoons, all the different spoons and methods that you could use. And then you're logging it into Macros First, or some, you might still be using MyFitnessPal. So measuring it, make sure that you stay within the budget that your coach has set for you. Everyone is given a calorie budget after that first calibration week, and making sure that you stay in that budget. The way to do that is to make sure that you're weighing and measuring properly. So if you're not doing that, there's all kinds of different problems, and could potentially delay progress if you aren't doing this accurately. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today is, how do we make this more accurate? Why is all that important? Why, right? Portion control. Everyone guesses what they think a serving is. And, we get tricked all the time with the foods that we buy. It looks like, a whole package and you're like, oh, this is one serving, and you eat the whole package. And then you look at the nutrition and it actually was 4 servings, right? So measuring and weighing and doing that accurately, it helps with portion control, making sure that you're not eating more than you should, tracking your macros. While we don't get super nerdy about macros in the beginning, we stick to just calories here in the beginning. Macro tracking is something that's important, something that we definitely get into as we go. So making sure that you're weighing and measuring accurately will help us get the macros right. Eric was talking about at the beginning how he changes his percentage from, 40% to 50% at times. And what does that even mean? Well, that's macros, right? 50% of his intake for that time is protein grams. So if you're not weighing and measuring properly, you have no idea what percentage you're at because you're just guessing, right? It supports your health goals. Whether you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, whatever it is, like it's important to measure it because, again, you don't want to be guessing. If you're trying to gain weight and you're under eating, you're not going to gain weight. If you're trying to lose weight and you're overeating, you're not going to lose weight, right? It's pretty simple. Better awareness. A lot of times we don't even think about what we're eating. We're just eating, right? It feels good. I'm hungry. My belly's growling. Logging it, measuring it, weighing it, actually seeing what we're putting into our body, like that's really, really important. And it just provides the awareness that you may not have realized that something was as many calories as it was until you log it, right? And then it's sustainable changes. If you're constantly guessing and some days you're over and some days you're under and it's kind of all over the place and sporadic, the habit of being inconsistent with your food, that's going to derail things. But to make it sustainable so that you can hold on to your goals for a long term, that's why we want to measure. That's important to do that. So what's the big deal about the calorie deficit, and why do we have to measure, and what does it even matter, and why can't I guess, right? If you're trying to lose fat, you have to be in a deficit. It's plain as day, just like that. Your coach, I'm sure, has told you that. But if you're guessing, and you may not be in a deficit without even realizing it. Little hidden calories like peanut butters, the the dressings, the condiments, the extra little fats, right? You could be 100, 200, 300 calories over your deficit and not even realize it because you're not weighing and measuring everything that you're eating. And so, while you might think that you're not eating very much, do you really know? Once you start logging and measuring everything accurately, then you can be for sure. Everything is data driven. You learned from the very beginning when you first joined the program that we were a data driven, very scientific program. We make sure that we know where we're taking you. Each of you have different goals, and each of you have a different way that you need to get there. And in order for us to better plan for you and make this a custom tailored program for you, we have to have accurate data. We use that data to make sure that we're taking you in the right direction. If you are inconsistently logging, then it's going to lead to inconsistent fat loss. If you're not tracking accurately, like I said, if you're not in a deficit, you're not going to lose weight. If you're not in a surplus, you're not going to gain weight. So are you eating 1,800 calories or are you eating 2,100 calories? Are you eating 3,000 calories, right? We can't guess. It builds that unreliable habit, like I said earlier. If you're guessing all of the time, you're teaching your brain that a portion is this size and it really might not be. I mean, how many times, like I said earlier, have you picked up something from the store and you're like, this family size? It looks like the size that I would eat. I would eat one whole thing of that. And it really was supposed to be 4 servings. So when you're looking at that nutrition label, if you log 1 serving and you ate the entire bag, that's obviously not right. So you need to make sure that you're looking at the nutrition thing, you're weighing everything so that it's not a 500-calorie meal versus a 120-calorie meal because you logged 1 serving and you ate 4. Bad data, bad adjustments. If you're giving us incorrect data because you're guessing, we can't give you correct numbers going forward, right? We can't do this smartly. We're just guessing just like you are. And we don't like to guess. We want to be accurate. We want to get you there as quick as possible. We don't want this to be prolonged because we're guessing at where your numbers need to be. Calorie deficit, lose weight. Calorie surplus, gain weight. It really is sometimes that simple. So I know I name myself personally. When I first started logging, I thought that I was in a deficit or I thought that I was eating a certain number of calories. And it turns out that I really wasn't once I was eating. So if you have a story or a similar experience where you thought you were in a deficit and you weren't seeing any progress, right? And this could be within the program or at a different time. If you thought you were in a deficit and then you started logging and you realized, well, shit, that's why I wasn't gaining any weight. Who has experienced that? Go ahead and unmute and tell us your takeaway.
Mine was alcohol. I didn't realize how many calories was in alcohol. So when I started logging that, my stay up at the bonfire in my backyard nights was about 1,000 calories.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Nice. Who else? Anybody else have a big realization that they didn't think they were eating very much, and then when they started logging, they really weren't in a deficit?
My realization when I first joined Body Ops was that I just wasn't eating enough, period.
It's pretty common.
I always think it's crazy how still think it's crazy how like one meal out at like an Olive Garden, you choose the wrong thing, you're looking at like 3/4 of your freaking day gone.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was I did like measuring cups, and I didn't realize that there was such a difference between measuring cups and actual grams and ounces. And I was actually eating more than what I thought was being accurate. I wasn't actually being accurate.
Yeah, that's a really common one, a really good one too, because if you're not using that scale and you pull out what you think is 4 ounces of chicken with your little measuring cup, It may not be, especially, you know, we'll get into here soon. Did you weigh it cooked? Did you weigh it raw? All those things really, really matter. And measuring cups for certain items really aren't effective. So good one. Good job. Thanks for sharing, everybody. Macros, right? We don't really get super nerdy about macronutrients in the program until you're very, very consistent with your calories. Most of you aren't even looking at all those other circles and macros first. We've asked you not to even look at it and play around with it and really only worry so much about the calories. Of course, we talk about protein and we give you all these ideas for getting higher protein and protein, right? But it's calories first. Once you have that consistency with hitting the calorie mark where it needs to be, then we can start getting into these macronutrients and you can start learning more about that. But it's really not even relevant to talk about this stuff until you are weighing and measuring and logging accurately, because it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how much your percentage is for your proteins and your fats and your carbohydrates. It really doesn't if you're overeating or undereating where your budget is for what your goals are. So it's really important to focus on calories first, and then we can get into these things. So those proteins being for muscle, right? Fats, hormone production, energy, and the carbohydrates, not only for energy, but it's your primary energy source, right? We need carbohydrates, and everybody's like, oh, carbohydrates are so bad, right? We can't even get into these conversations until the calories are squared away and that you understand the amount of food that you're putting into your body. Calories are how much you weigh, and the macros are how you look. So we have to get weight figured out first, and then we can focus on these things so that we can fine tune how you want to look with your body. And weighing and measuring is a way to do that. Different methods of doing that. We've already talked about the scale being the biggest preference, right? You can get precise measurements by using the scale, a scale that you can buy on Amazon. They aren't very expensive. You can get them on Amazon, you get them at Walmart, you can get them anywhere. Ounces, grams, usually the easiest and the most universal to use. I use grams just because I feel like that's the easiest for me. I don't get confused as to, is it fluid ounces? Is it regular ounces? I just do grams, right? Measuring cups, we like to use measuring cups for liquids and dry ingredients. So like your powders, your milk or oils, using measuring cups and spoons for those are going to be the easiest way to get that measured, right? And then if you don't have access to a scale or your measuring cups, then visual approximations. We don't want these to be the norm, right? This is just out of the ordinary. If you must do it this way, then great. But what I suggest, and this is what I suggest to a lot of my clients, if they know they're not going to have a kitchen scale or a measuring cup, they're going to teach themselves and they're going to start training their eye for measuring using their hand. So I give them this graphic to use, and way before they even start going on these trips or getting to a situation where they can't weigh and measure, they're practicing, they're learning. Your hand is different than mine. Everybody's hand is different. Like, so if I look at this visual aid and I'm like, oh, well, it's 1 ounce, it's 4 ounces, it's whatever, right? It's different for everybody. So you have to learn, what does it look like for you? And so how we do that, we start practicing. All right, I'm going to guess based on my hand. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to look at my plate and I'm like, oh, I think that's 6 ounces. And then I'm going to weigh it on my scale and I'm going to check myself. And the more I do that, then I can start training my eye to, what does 6 ounces look like on my hand? What does a tablespoon look like on my fingers? And then you can get a little bit more accurate at eyeballing, but even then, eyeballing is not the preferred method. If all else fails, use it, because we still want to log and we still want to try to be as accurate as possible, but it takes a while to train your eye. A long while to train your eye. So practicing that on the regular, keeping a graphic like this, and or whether it's a graphic or you just using your hand on the regular to say, okay, this is how I'm going to guess. then that's a way to do it. So has anybody used this? I know a lot of my clients are on here. Has anyone successfully been able to use their hand to eyeball and get accurate?
I don't know if it, I had to use it when I went to go pick up my son.
So were you were practicing ahead of time though, right? Of
Yeah.
like, okay, am I accurate? Do you feel like you were getting close?
No.
No? Yeah. So
So
it
I
takes
came
a
back
long
from the
time,
trip
Ryan.
and
You just
yeah,
started the program. So it takes a while, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
but you still were able to kind of guess and get some stuff logged. And that's important just to make sure that we are still keeping track, at least in some way, even if it's not 100% accurate all the time, right? We still want to make sure that we're getting it logged to the best of our ability when we're in those situations where we can't weigh and measure. Cool. All right, recipes. This is a big one. Chilies and taco bowls and soups and all the, breads and baked goods, right? How the hell do we log that stuff into Macros First whenever I'm making it? And it's by using a recipe. Now, I have this slide and I'm going to do a screenshot of this slide and I'm going to drop it in the community for elites. And so these are the instructions for how to create a recipe and Macros First, whether it's that you're doing it because you know how many servings you're creating or with this meal, with this recipe, or if you don't know how many servings and you are just simply scooping as you go. For example, at the bottom here, I have the instructions for, weighing it. If you don't know how many servings you're going to get because it's a thing of chili, and you'll weigh the full amount. And each time you take out a scoop of that, you'll tell Macros First, I had 100 grams of that full recipe. And Macros First is going to automatically adjust your portion for it based on the information that you created in the recipe. So you'll create the recipe, put all of your ingredients in there, using the barcode scanner when you can, measuring and weighing everything. You'll build your recipe as you are creating this food, this meal. And then you'll either tell at Macros First how many servings you're getting out of all of it, or you'll weigh all of it and say the entire recipe is one serving and it weighs 3,000 grams. Okay. So then whenever I go to take my bowl of chili out and I weigh my bowl of chili that I'm eating, if it's 300 grams, I'll put my serving is 300 grams. And because I told all of the ingredients in there, Macros First is going to say, okay, well, your 300 grams of the bigger recipe is this, this, and this. And it's going to do it for me. That recipe stays in there for you. So if it's something that you create on the regular, it's already there. You don't have to do it every single time as far as creating the recipe. As long as you're making it the same every single time, you can just say how much of that recipe you're doing. If you're doing servings, I like to create protein puddings. I know that the big batch of protein pudding that I make is going to create 10 servings, 10 equal servings. So I create my recipe. I say all the crap that I put in there, weighing and measuring and all of the things, it all gets logged in there as my ingredients. And I tell Macros First that I'm getting 10 servings out of all of this stuff. I don't have to weigh each one as long as they are equal servings. I just say how many I get. And then right away, Macros First will tell me how many serving or how much my macros are for each serving. So 2 different ways to do that. And I will again drop this into the elite group so that you can use this as a guide for creating your own recipes. Who has successfully, besides the coaches, because I know we all have, who has successfully created a recipe that you use on the regular? Ryan, tell me about it.
I have a practically fat-free carnitas, which I've shared, but I created it in the other app, not oh my god, Sorry,
I'll
I
finish now.
just yes. Sorry, I'm just getting activated. I got a fire recently in the area that I'm gonna have to go to here in a few minutes. So I'm gonna have to jump off. But yes, my Fitness Pal. I created a recipe in there and turned out great.
Awesome. Who else? Who's done one in macros first?
I have.
All right. Who was that? I don't know.
It's Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Hi. I
Hey.
didn't even see you pop on. All
Girl,
right.
I'm like
you got it.
I'm like a ninja. You know, so I pretty much just stare at my wife because she is the mixologist for the kitchen. So I just watch everything she does, and as she's going, I'm grabbing bags before she throws them away because she still cannot remember that I scan everything that she's doing. And she made this I just named it. I called it tater casserole. And there was whole ingredients, tater tots to line the bottom, and then egg, sausage, cheese, more egg, more cheese, another layer of sausage. And it was so easy because I put exactly how much she put in of each. And it kind of created its own little serving section. So I was looking at what, like the sausage package, how much she used would make how many servings. And I kind of based it off that in correlation with how many eggs she used. So
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
I have also created a recipe in macros first.
Awesome. What'd you make?
Couple different things, but one of my favorite things is a salad, because I couldn't find any salads on Macro First that lined up with mine in the nutrient category. So I put in all my own things.
Okay. You're searching as you go and put it all in.
Yes, like I look up the nutritional value of, let's say, cucumber, mint, tomatoes, spinach, like I'm looking at all of those and I'm measuring and everything out in grams and putting it in.
Perfect. That's exactly right. Awesome.
See, I also did apple crisp, which is huge for the family. It's a big, huge thing. It's not healthy, but I do it where, like you said, you do the one serving for the whole thing, and then I'll dish out how much I get. Now, for me, the easiest way I've been able to do it, rather than putting how many grams and kind of guesstimating, I'll actually go to the calories part and put how many calories I want. And then that'll tell me how many grams I need to scoop out.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Practical tips. Okay. This isn't easy. We know that it isn't easy. It definitely is a skill that we have to practice. We also know that it's not going to be perfect, especially on that first week. We haven't even given you a budget yet. So you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and we're all learning at the same time. Those are the times that you're going to ask questions, make sure that you understand. The earlier you ask those questions and get things sorted out, the quicker you can get to the point of practicing and doing it the right way, right? So tear the scale. This simply means that you're zeroing it out, especially if you're building a bowl of something. A big hit in my household is taco bowls. So we have like taco bars regularly, and I will have all the ingredients laid out. And then I literally build my taco bowl on the scale as I'm going, and tearing the scale just means that you're zeroing it out each time. Now, not all scales have the ability to tear or to zero out. So you might have to like turn it off, turn it back on each time, or write it down and not, build it as you go, or take it off, and however you have to do it if you don't have the tear. But bowl, zero it out, right? So I'm not counting my bowl. Meat, dump my meat in. How much meat? Grams, awesome. Log my meat. Black beans, how many grams of black beans? Great. Log it in, move on. My salsa, my whatever else that you're putting in there, right? And I'm building it as I go while it's on the scale. and logging each individual ingredient. So then I have my full meal. It's a big bowl of a bunch of shit that's all in there. But because I weighed everything as I went and I zeroed out each thing, I knew exactly how much of each individual ingredient I created and whenever I logged it in. I don't necessarily have to do a recipe every time because it's different, right? My taco bowls are going to be different. I'm going to decide that I want more or less. So I may not create a recipe, but I'm going to log in my dinner that night all of those things. So I'll have this whole list of stuff in my dinner that all went into the same bowl together because I built it on the scale, zeroing it out each time. A big one, measuring before cooking. This is the preferred method, but it's not always practical. I'm going to tell you why it's the preferred method. If you have, for example, a 5-ounce chicken breast and you weigh 5 ounces of chicken breast and you log it, right? When you cook that 5 ounces of chicken breast, it's going to cook the water out. But the nutritional value of that 5 ounces of chicken breast did not change simply because the water got cooked out. It's still the same amount of protein. It's still the same amount of calories, still the same amount of fat. But if you weighed it after you cooked it, it would be less. So it might say maybe it's only 4 ounces now after you've cooked it. 5 ounces of chicken breast has different macros than 4 ounces. So you have to make sure that you are logging it the way that you cook it. If you're going to always do it raw, awesome. Log it, make sure that it's raw chicken. If you're going to do grilled or you're cooking it, make sure that you're logging grilled chicken. Same thing with pasta, right? If you barcode scan your pasta box, it says 1 serving is 2 ounces. But if you go pull out 2 ounces of cooked pasta and you put that on your bowl, you're like, what the hell? It's like 2 bites, like 2 little forkfuls. 2 ounces of pasta is nothing after it's cooked. But it's 2 ounces uncooked is what the serving size is. So when you're logging, make sure that you are logging cooked pasta versus just regular barcode scan. Some people will do 1 serving at a time and log it dry or weigh it dry and measure it dry and do their rice that way. But it's going to weigh more after. So like 2 ounces of uncooked rice is probably, I don't know, I'm guessing a cup of cooked rice. So obviously much different. If you did 2 ounces of cooked rice, it would be nothing, right? So just make sure that you're logging appropriately for the method that you've cooked. Portion your snacks out right away. A lot of us buy in bulk because it's cheaper to do it that way. But what happens is, and I know this, I'm guilty of this. I sat down in the front of the TV and I had my bag of trail mix or my bag of snacks and I just kept eating out of the bag. And now I realize after I started weighing and measuring, I was probably sitting there eating about 1,500 calories of trail mix because there's a lot of calories in nuts, right? And if you're just eating blindly and you're not paying attention, you could rack up a whole day full of calories with just your snack. So I divide them out right away. This is actually a picture of my snack prep of 150 calories of trail mix in each of these little baggies. So I don't have to measure it right away, right whenever I want it. I just do it at first, put it all in there when I first get home with my bag, and then I can grab and go. And I don't have to weigh it. I already know that this bag has 150 calories in it, and I can log it right away. I don't have to measure it at the time. I don't have to take my time to do all of that, right? I can just grab and go. Same thing with your pretzels and chips and all the other snacks, like portion it out for yourself to make it easy. So at the time that you want to have that snack, it's easier for you and saves some time. Also avoids overeating and sitting there and just eating an entire bag and you're like, shit, I wasn't even paying attention. And now you're like 3,000 calories into a bag of Doritos. Measuring spoons for condiments. This is the big one that gets missed all the time. Oils, sauces, and dressings. If you are not measuring your oils, sauces, and dressings, you are probably overeating them or you're eating more calories than you think. I'm a ranch lover. How many times have you picked up that freaking ranch or dressing or any and you're just like squirting it all over your salad? You have no idea how much you did because 1 tablespoon is 1 serving, and it's not very much. So if you squirt it in there, dump it, squirt it in there, dump it, then you can count how many tablespoons you're actually using. But if you just squeeze it on your salad, you have no idea. And we're talking the difference, especially when you're doing a higher fat dressing like a ranch, that could be 200, 300, 400 calories difference from my 1 tablespoon of ranch versus my 4 because I wasn't measuring. So super important to track your oils, your sauces, and your dressings to make sure that you are getting it accurate. I'm going to read through the comments here real quick. Nice. I love that. Gives you control, not chaos. Yes. Fantastic. All right. Challenges. We all know this is not easy. So some of the challenges that keep coming up is it's time consuming, right? It is. It can be. You can make it easier. You can make it harder. Pre-planning, pre-logging, logging your food in ahead of time. If you already know what you're going to have for dinner, go ahead and put it in. If you know what you're going to have for your snacks, put them in early. You don't have to wait until the moment that you're eating it or at the end of the day to try to remember everything that you did. It does become very time consuming if you're waiting until the end of the day and you're like, shit, what did I have for breakfast? Oh yeah, I had da 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 da. And now, like, I don't know, I forget how much something was the second I take it off of the scale. And I've said this to a lot of my clients. Like, if I don't log it while it's on the scale, I'm going to take a bite and have no idea what I just ate as far as how much, because my brain does not operate that way. I have to log it right away because I'm not going to remember that that was 100 grams. So I log it before I eat it. That also allows me to see what my budget is for the rest of the day. And I don't have to wait until the end of the day to try to remember. And it would, if I waited until the end of the day, it would probably take me a significant amount of time to log everything. But if I do it throughout the day, it's seconds. Sometimes it literally takes seconds, because if it's a food that you've recently eaten, you open it up, you go to your recent foods and you're like, plus, 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 done. Seconds. As opposed to going to the end of the night and having to scroll through and be like, oh yeah, right? Eating out or social events. Yes, this is hard when you're going out. We already talked, or we're going to talk about, tips for eating out in restaurants, but one way to combat that is looking up the menus ahead of time. Looking at what the nutritional value is so you can already know what you're going to have whenever you get there. Social events, getting really good at practicing that visualization, taking your scale with you, being okay to be that guy who brings the scale to your family functions, right? Lisa has a great story about this. Like, she literally took her scale to a family function and they all looked at her like she was an idiot and like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Who cares? You're trying to better your health. Who cares what anybody else thinks? Take the scale, measure it. Do you need to take your scale to the freaking restaurants? No, but you can look up the stuff ahead of time and have the nutritional value and pre-log it so that you are staying on track. Feeling overwhelmed, right? We get it. It's hard. One meal at a time, right? And we're only asking you to do calories at first. We're going to ask for consistency, right? We're only paying attention to calories. We're not paying attention to this other stuff. One circle, that's all you have to focus on in the beginning. And then we get into the more. So if you're overwhelmed, let your coach know, like, this is too much, I can't handle it. And then we can make that adjustment to help you. Ask those questions, right? Forgetting, oh, I skipped one. Not knowing what to log, right? When you search, inevitably there's going to be a bunch of shit in there that may or may not be your thing. Lots of different versions of, I don't know, for example, you put in a tortilla. Well, which one is it, right? If you're not seeing your brand, which one should you log? Using the barcode is your fail safe. The really awesome thing about Macros First versus some of the other apps is that we don't have to pay extra We don't have to do the premium version in order to use the barcode scanner. Use that barcode scanner every single opportunity that you can. Even if that means you do what I do, dig that shit out of the garbage and find the barcode that you already threw away, right? We've all done it. I even barcode scan my meat sometimes, right? If it has a barcode scanner, I'm using the barcode scanner, and you just have to make sure that it's the right thing. Sometimes it's not correct. So you're going to make sure that it did in fact say what you're actually having. And then I always just change it to grams. And then forgetting to track, right? We've all done this. Everybody. This is like a super common, I just forgot, right? Well, you're trying to better your health. You can't just forget. It happens, but setting yourself reminders, keeping your food scale on the counter out and visual, it help, making sure that every time you eat, you're opening up your app on the phone and making sure that you're logging. Like, those are the habits that we're trying to get into so that you are keeping your health and your awareness and your awareness is the big thing, front and center, right? The more often you do it, the less likely you are to forget. Okay, who has another common challenge that maybe I haven't addressed here? Lay it on me. Who's struggling with food logging right now?
I'm having a hard time managing my recipes. I'm like actively trying to get food on my plate right now. And I made a marinated chicken recipe that I measured while I prepared the marinated chicken. And then after all the marinated sauce was thrown in the garbage and everything, I reweighed it raw, and then I reweighed it cooked again. And I'm trying to go through and change it. But when I made the recipe, I made it in like, I want to be able to say that I had 1 cup of this marinated chicken. And so I tried to do it that way, and it didn't want to log the grams correctly. And so I went back and tried to change it to I'm trying to eat 114 grams of this marinated chicken, and the calories are just out of control on the Macros First app.
On the recipe that you created, the calories are out of control, or on your individual portion?
On my individual portion, like I'm trying to put in that I have 114 grams of chicken on my plate, which is it's not very much. See, look, I have this much on my plate. And it's like my Macros First is saying like, you've just ingested 1,700 calories.
Yeah, so there's probably some disconnect with what you've logged in the recipe versus what you're trying. Like you said, there's probably it's cups versus ounces versus grams or something. So you and I can look at your recipe a little bit later and see if we can determine what the problem is there.
Okay.
Okay. Who else has a struggle that they're working on?
I'm sorry, guys. I'd like to speak on that last one because I had a similar thing happen. And what the problem was when I went in and looked on MacroFat first, is that the serving number was incorrect, even though the grams were correct. Somehow Macro First changed my serving number, say from 1 to 220 or something like that.
Oh, in the recipe?
Correct. I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't know. And it happened more than once. Where the app changed the number. I didn't do it, and I don't know why it did that.
That's actually
Did
really
you
good
just go back
information.
in and
because
edit the recipe?
Yes, I went back in and changed it back, but I had that same problem when I've made up more than just a salad recipe, but I had the same problem when I was doing some of the recipes that I put in for myself.
That's good to know. I
That's good.
just went
Thank
in
you
there
so
and I
much.
put in my 114 grams of chicken, and it said that I'm eating 6 portions. And so I just changed it back to 1, and I'm perfectly fine now. I have
Yes,
200.
thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. It was the app that did that. I don't know why.
Got it. So edit the recipe to make sure that it only says one serving if you're doing it like that. Awesome. All right, who else has a challenge that we haven't listed here that you're struggling with?
So I have that we kind of talked about it, but eating out. Like my family and I, we do this thing where every weekend a different person picks where we're gonna eat that weekend to go out to eat. And it's like sometimes we can't like find the menu online. So I'll show up at the restaurant and I'll order something and I'm like, how the hell do I log this? So it's like I'm over there like trying to deconstruct my entire plate while I'm there in the restaurant. And like I have a story of I had some ramen one day and I'm like, how much bok choy is in this thing? And I'm like ripping it apart like piece by piece. And I'm asking the servers and they're like, oh, we just kind of eyeball it, so we don't really know. So I had to guesstimate as best I could. And yeah, that was a little rough.
Yeah, the restaurant situation is that we're going to get into that in the next slide. The restaurant situation definitely provides some additional challenges. And there's lots of different ways that we can kind of try to combat them the best as possible. But as long as you're, at least aware of it and logging appropriately and making some good choices. One mishap at a restaurant once a week where it's not accurate shouldn't derail everything, right?
In theory.
Mhm. All right, so let's get into that. Let's get into restaurants and fast food, because that's a big topic, right? How do I eat whenever I go out? How do I log it? Da 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 da, right? So tips. Check the nutrition info first. Like I said in the last slide, right? Most of the restaurants, especially the chain restaurants, have menus online. They have their nutritional information online. Likewise, they are in Macros First. So if you just type in Chipotle or Panera or Qdoba, pretty much the entire restaurant menu pops up and you can start picking and choosing what you're eating, right? I've used Macros First in there to make a decision on what I was going to eat, because I'm like, oh, I have 800 calories. What can I eat from this menu? And I'll go in and I'll actually start adding it. And I'm like, nope, not that. Yep, I can do that. Oh, I can do half of that, right? So checking the nutrition info first, whether it be online on their website for the nutritional information and making a decision before you go on what you're going to eat, or when you're there pulling it up or using Macros First to kind of look and see what would fit into your budget. Using the hand guide whenever you get there, practice it, like I said, regularly against your scale at home so you can get better at eyeballing what does it look like with using my hand to visualize it. Not all restaurants are going to have nutritional information, so you just kind of have to pick and choose the closest thing and do the best that you can to get accurate. That's where the pictures for your coach come in handy. If you're taking a picture of that meal, that plate, and you're sending a picture of that to your coach can help you. It's really also helpful if you can get the menu description. So not only are you sending the picture of it, but a description on the menu, because that helps us help you find the right thing, or at least something that's similar. For example, Smoothie King is really, really popular, right? But there's a lot of like little independent smoothie places. So I was able to help a client one time log a smoothie using Smoothie King recipes, because she gave me the recipe, or she gave me the description of what that place had in all of her, the list of ingredients that were in her thing. Was it 100% accurate? Probably not, but it was close enough. And we erred on the side of overestimating to make sure that we could get it logged. So it's not always going to be perfect, but logging something is better than logging nothing, right? Log it immediately. Put it in there right away. Not only does that help you see what your budget is, and if you are going to go over your budget or under, if you need to only eat half of it, if you eat all of it and then you log it, you're like, shit, I should have had half of it and taken the rest home, right? Log it before you eat. So then you know, right? A lot of the restaurants have the quick ads. If you look up whatever it is, like Qdoba, I'm like plus, salsa, yep, guacamole, yep, meat, yep. And I can literally like in seconds build my Qdoba bowl, my little burrito bowl very, very quickly just by searching the actual restaurant name. Customize and modify your orders, right? We all know grilled is better than fried. So make those better choices. Get the sauces and the dressings on the side. And I have an example here of why it's important to get the sauces and the dressings on the side. We'll take Hooters wings, for example. This is what I have in this photo. So this very top one is how I would order wings. I would order them naked and I would get the sauce on the side. Okay, this is going to give me my 822 calories for 10 wings. If I were just to go in there and order 10 wings as they are off the menu, I'm looking at 1,300 calories versus 800 and something calories because I got them naked, not breaded, not sauced, and I got the sauce on the side. Sauce on the side, usually they're going to put it in some sort of ramekin. Sometimes those ramekins are 2 ounces. Sometimes they're 4 ounces. Get yourself accustomed to what does a 2 ounce ramekin look like? What is a 4 ounce ramekin? That's the little cups, right? The little cups that they give you. You can then control how much of that sauce you eat. If it's all put on there, like wing sauce is butter. Right? It's just nothing but butter. That's why it's 13 freaking hundred calories because it's 86 grams of fat for one for 10 wings, right? So making better choices that can help you save a significant number of calories and still have wings, but making a smarter choice, right? Those are the different things that you can do. If you can't find the exact meal, like I said, you log similar, right? Round it up. You're going to add an extra thing of oil, an extra tablespoon of oil. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Anytime you go out to a restaurant, to give yourself a margin of error. They cook like it tastes really, really good because they're using butter and oil and fat. That's why a lot of stuff tastes good. So logging that extra tablespoon of oil or extra tablespoon of butter on top of the regular nutritional value is also going to help you, especially in like steak places. So for example, this is a typical steak dinner that I will have at Outback. We have an Outback here. My husband and I like to go every now and then have a steak. Each individual item that I have on my plate, I literally just typed in Outback. All of this came up. I knew that I was going to have the asparagus. I knew that I was having the 8-ounce steak, and I knew that I was having the mashed potatoes. Plus. That's what I logged. And then I also logged an extra tablespoon of oil to give me that buffer for how they cook it, which may be a little bit more because that freaking steak tastes phenomenal and they probably doused it with butter. And this is going to give me an extra buffer to make sure that I overestimate and I don't blow out my calories as a result. Who else does this at the restaurants? Greg, Coach Greg, I know you do.
Yep, I always add anywhere from 10 to 20% back in every time I eat out to account for the, like you said, all the added shit that gets tossed in there and the fact that the FDA allows for like a 20 to 30% error range in all the reported information that they give you online.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Awesome. Who else? Well, shit. Can't get rid of this. Sorry. Who else gives themselves extra butter or oil at the restaurants?
I do. Sometimes, like I've messaged you and said, I don't think that the number that they have on here is right, so I'm not going to eat quite that amount and just let that number lie there.
Nice. Awesome job. All right. So now we can go forward. Now it's not going to let me.
Marianne,
Okay.
did you
Yeah.
see what Naomi asked in the group? She asked, can you really trust the calories on the menu?
Not typically, but it's better than not logging it at all. Right? So you could log an 8-ounce. You could probably search for an 8-ounce tenderloin, or I'm sorry, an 8-ounce fillet. I think that's what I had on there. And you're going to get lots of different ones. So I do try to pick the restaurant that I'm in. You can compare what's in Macros First to what they have on their menu to see if there's, you know, a discrepancy there. But using the restaurant, the actual restaurant brand in whenever you're searching in Macros First is typically good enough. And then that's why we add the extra oil. That's why we add the extra calories in there.
So Marianne, another thing you can do for those of you that are taking or you want an opportunity for a better date night, why not look at what the recipe is for the food that you want from the restaurant you want it from and do it yourself at home where you control everything. Then you can save it. You
I
think
wish
about
I
that.
could cook a steak that
That's
good.
quite right. You could. You probably could.
No, I cannot.
You just don't know it yet,
I've
right?
tried. I've been trying for years.
You get it. You get it.
Terrible.
But you think about it at that point, and then you're accomplishing more than one thing at a time. You're learning something with your spouse, spending quality time with your spouse. You're getting to enjoy the food that you want, and you control how it's cooked.
For
So
sure.
you know how much butter and oil you use.
Yep.
That's just a suggestion. You don't have to do it like Marianne if you can't get the
I
steak
can't
the
get it
same.
right.
Maybe it's the stove they use. You never know, or the burner. So that might be why. But it's always an opportunity. You always got to look at everything. How can I make this fun? Right. It's the same thing with logging. How can I enjoy this, even though I don't like it? So can anybody answer that question? I don't care if it's one of the coaches either. Can
Get an
anybody
air-
answer that question?
Or get a Ninja wood burning or pellet burning stove, and you'll be able to hit those flavors that you're missing. And the other thing you can do is they use liquid smoke,
Oh yeah.
and you can get there, take a little bit of liquid smoke and put it in with a couple tablespoons of water and put it in the bottom of your air fryer or in your or soak your pellets in it if you're using a Ninja wood pellet one, and you'll get that flavor.
Nice. I'll try that.
There you go. But the answer I was looking for, Marianne, and I'll be done, is don't look at the process of why it's enjoyable, but look at the results of why it's enjoyable. This is going to make me feel this much better. This is going to make me better in some way, shape, or form. So look at the outcome of it.
And we're all adults here. You don't have to enjoy everything that you do. No one likes taking the trash out. I don't fucking jump with joy every time I have to fold my fucking clothes. I don't care. I'm a goddamn adult. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so just weigh it, right? Just do it. Look at this image here. If you're using a regular tablespoon that you just pulled out of your drawer and you do a tablespoon of peanut butter, like it's the same freaking spoon, but 100 calories difference. Oil, same thing. The same spoon, depending on how you fill it. So use proper spoons to measure things, right? Don't just guess at a handful of almonds. Look at the difference there, 75 calories difference. Make sure that you are weighing and measuring. You can't guess. It doesn't look like much difference, but look at how many calories are different in those 2 spoons of peanut butter. All right. Client of the month, Mr. Paul DaCosta, freaking fantastic, sir. Celebrating success for sure, right? Mr. Paul does everything that I ask him to do, right? He follows it to the letter. Just like Nathan said earlier, if you do what is being asked of you, you will see success. And Paul is a shining example of that. He's down 38 pounds overall. He's under 11% body fat now. And instead of just jogging, he's actually running and has gotten his 5K under 30 minutes, which is a really, really awesome thing to do. Not a lot of people can do that, and Paul has achieved it. So really freaking proud of you, Paul.
Hell yeah, good job, Paul. Damn good job. You like a different man, dude.
Yeah.
You look beach ready.
And then book of the month. So Skinny Taste is a really, really cool bunch of recipe books. And this one is particularly geared toward meal prep. So she's got, I think there are now 8 of these different recipe books focusing on different things, lots of different health issues that she's addressed in various books. So if you haven't watched her blog, or if you haven't, you know, listened to her podcast or anything, or don't have any books, definitely check these out. Gina Homolka, she's pretty freaking great, and has lots of really great ideas. There's lots of recipes in here for meal prepping, for making more than one meal at a time, so you can save time. You would just create that recipe in macros first, and then plus each time that you have it. She has freezer and storage tips in there as well, so meals that you can freeze and eat later. You can do it for families, like all kinds of different things. So definitely a nice group of books that you can check out for meal prepping and ideas for recipes. That's all I got, Coach.
Good job, Marianne. You can unshare your screen. Damn good job. How you all feeling after that?